My friends, my name is Michael. Everybody can hear, right? Send a plus in the chat if you if you're okay, if you can hear and see everything. So I'm Michael. I'm not Jeremy. Jeremy is gonna come on in a few minutes, and so today I'm just gonna introduce Jeremy. Today we have an excellent webinar. Jeremy Slate. I don't know if you know him personally or you've heard of him. He's got to be a pretty famous guy. He got to be a big success, started with nothing. He's a top 100 iTunes podcasters. So today we're going to have building a digital brand to stand out. So how your digital presence will stand out. And the webinar is done with our friends MediaTek company who created an iPromo platform. So if we go and you saw that awesome reel that they did, right? The first reel you saw, they work with very big companies, McCain, Ogilvy, and others. So they actually working mostly in Europe and Asia, yes. So the iPromo is their platform. They are and MediaTek and Coca-Cola company partnership. You see the slide now, right? They doing awesome products for them. So words about their company. So they have 6+ years in digital markets in Europe, Asia, and Africa. 10+ digital agencies as our partner. So in other words, big, like Madison Avenue agencies actually use their services. But the point of that presentation, you will see later, will be that they also provide services for very small businesses or even professionals, like a one lawyer or a doctor or somebody. They have 40+ specialists in digital. Okay, might be coming back up. Right. So just like any other webinar, it will be about 1 hour. All the questions are at the end of the webinar. You should have a pen and a notebook. Obviously, spam and irrelevant comments are not allowed. And at the special bonus at the end, and it's an awesome special bonus, it will be something free that you can get. Lots of service basically for free you might get if you stay until the end. Here's some facts about Jeremy. So I've known Jeremy for many years. So he got to be into top 100 podcasters on iTunes, has maybe tens of thousands of downloads now. So he really had big guests on his program, like Tony Horton, P90X. He had Matisse was singing. He had Grant Cardone, if you know who that is, and many others. So check it podcast also. But today he's just gonna do a webinar on social media. All right, Jeremy, over to you. I'm gonna turn on and I'll put up his presentation and turn off my video. All right.
Hey, all right. Thank you, Michael. I really appreciate you guys having me here today. I'm really excited to help you get moving on your social media following and some really great tips and actually some tactics we're going to put into action today to help you guys get moving forward. So we're going to talk about building a digital brand to stand out. And I think most people don't look at their online and social media presence and they think that it's a brand. It's not something that a lot of people have in mind, especially with everybody's parents, kids, grandparents being on Facebook and a lot of these different places now. They put out content and things like that aren't quite relevant. So I'm going to help you today figure out what content's relevant for your business, how to put it into action, and how you can actually use that to reach other people and grow your presence. So one of the most important things I want to remind you guys of, and if you have this problem, hit me up in the comments in the chat over there, but if you hit a word that you do not understand, please stop me, because I want to make sure you totally understand everything that is going on in this presentation and everything we're going to talk about today, because I want you to have some big wins at the end of this. Because we have had in previous times delivering this presentation, when I've spoken different places, we've had some huge wins, and I want you to have those. So Michael said a little bit about me, but I've done a lot of stuff online, and for me, my big focus has been Facebook. Facebook fan page has 31,000 followers. I have almost 11,000 followers on Instagram. This is just to kind of give you an idea. I'm not going to rattle off everything here. But in our first 100 days of my podcast, which is called Create Your Own Life, we had 25,000 downloads, and we're closing in on 100,000 downloads of the show now, and we've been around for, a little over half a year for the podcast. So the idea behind that is, if I didn't have social media, if I didn't have a lot of these things, I would not have been able to launch that show so successfully. We've been ranked as high as number 1 in new and noteworthy, number 1 in business. We've kind of settled around number 26 is where we've been. It's been really cool. And I'm also a writer for a lot of different places, and I've gotten these opportunities from what I've done on social media. I write for Secret Entourage, Entrepreneur.com, Influensive.com, Medium.com, and the most recent one is AddictedToSuccess.com. So that's just to kind of give you guys an idea. And I also, what I do for a living is I do digital media managing for a company called Clear Images. So this is just to kind of give you guys an idea of why you should listen to what I have to give you today. Because I feel like unless anybody gives you a little bit of credibility and some statistics on why they're doing what they're doing, you shouldn't really be listening to them. So these are some of the people that I've connected with on digital media, social media, and a lot of, basically the online space. Some really super cool people. Robert Tursak, you'll see up there. He used to be the CEO for Oprah. He's been worked in the same position for Tony Robbins. We have Jared Glant, who's the Vice President of Sales for Grant Cardone. I actually am going to be interviewing Grant on my podcast next month. Kevin Harrington, if you guys watch Shark Tank, he was the first shark. Tony Horton is the creator of P90X. Tucker Max is one of only 3 guys to ever have 3 books on the New York Times bestseller list at the exact same time. So these are just some of the people. There's been hundreds of people I've connected with of influence via social media. But these are just a few to kind of give you guys just an idea of really what it can do for you and do for your brand. So I want to kind of start out with some things you should really consider. And we're going to talk a little bit about this, also about what your purpose is and what you're doing. So these are things that you really have to consider before you put an action plan into place. And that's what we're going to talk about. So some things to consider. You are a brand. What does that mean? Basically, you have to think about you are a representation of your company or whatever business exploit that you are trying to put together on your personal self. Meaning, we'll get into a bit the difference between a business page and a personal page, but your personal page is your profile and where you post. That represents your company. It's like when parents tell their kids, I expect you to behave a certain way because it's a representation on me. It's the same thing when you have your personal profile. So you need to think about, what are you known for? What do you want to be known for? And this is going to be the way a lot of your content is geared. Spam, get unfollowed. So there's this thing on Facebook, and that's mainly what I'm going to focus on today is Facebook and some concepts that you can apply to Facebook, because I don't want to get too much into nitty-gritty things because it can get confusing. So we're going to talk about some concepts that you can actually apply on this platform and have really big success. But basically what I mean when I say spam, get unfollowed, Facebook has this feature where you don't have to unfriend somebody if you don't want to see what they're posting. You can just basically unfollow them. And if you get unfollowed, that's really bad for you and you don't know that it happens. Basically, that person will say, I don't like the things you're posting, they're annoying, they're whatever, and they'll never see another thing you post and you won't know that it's happened. One of the biggest things I tell people is to keep the politics off social media. I totally get that you have beliefs politically, whatever, but you're not going to change anybody's opinion on your social media soapbox, and it's just going to hurt what you're trying to do. So I tell people to keep that off because, in all honesty, I unfollow most people that get political on Facebook because I may agree with them, but it gets annoying. And you need to understand that this is your viewpoint that you're trying to put out there in the world, and what do you want to put out there? And this is a process. You're constantly building you. It's not you start day one, you're ready to go, and oh my gosh. And I think that's why a lot of people don't go into social media the way that they could, because they have this hesitance that everything has to be perfect right away. And if it's not, I can't move forward. It's a process. You know, if you look at, for those of you guys that know who Grant Cardone is, if you look at his original branding versus where he is now, they are two totally different things. But it's where you get started, and this is a process. You are constantly building you. So social media, I want you to kind of understand, it's like an ecosystem. It's like an environment. And I think a lot of people don't get that. You know, they say, I'm just putting attention on social media, I'm just putting attention on my website, or maybe just putting attention on my email autoresponder, whatever. But the center of your environment is actually your website. And you need to have a lot of these different things that latch off to it, because if you just have a following on social media, you know, people that like your page, you don't really have an email address for them. You don't really have a lot of these different things. So you're hurting how you could be marketing to people. So you need to constantly think about how you can connect a lot of these things, how you can create an environment so that you're having many, many, many different touch points of places people are going to see you. Maybe they see one thing on Twitter, but they see something on Facebook or something on LinkedIn or something on your website. And what I mean by it being an environment is your brand imagery should match, your color should match, the feel of your website should match. Everything needs to feel the same. You don't want somebody to get on a different platform and be like, oh my gosh, is this the same company? You never want that to be questioned. And that's what hurts a lot of companies, brands, and people in their marketing is things don't match up, and it's not set up in a way that it looks cohesive. You know, it looks like one complete world. That's what you have to think about. This idea of social media, your website, and all these other channels are your world. And you want people, when they come into your world, to have the same experience no matter where they go. It may just be in different ways. You know, the content you have on YouTube may be a little bit different versus the content you have on LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter. But you want people to realize they're still dealing with the same you. So I hope that makes sense for everybody. Hold on one second, my feed is slowing down here. Cool. So we're going to talk about Content 101. Basically, what does creating content look like for you? What is content going to look like for your company, for your brand, for your individual self? Most of what I'm going to talk about today is building your individual self, because that's a big tool to building your company and your brand and a lot of these things. But when you get to that level, you need a little bit of help. And we're going to talk about how that looks in terms of the help that's available and the things you can do in order to get your company to the next level. But it starts with you. And that's why I want to talk a lot today about you and what you are going to be doing as a brand. So here's a definition I want to clear up, because there's always a lot of confusion on this. You know, people say my Facebook page. Well, there's two different types of pages. There's a business page and there's a personal profile. And I want to clear that up because people have a confusion on this, and it can really stop you from wanting to confront it if you're confused on it. So business pages, you like them, you can't be friends with them. And only 1 to 5% of people that see your page that are liking your page will actually ever see anything you post. And you can run advertising towards different types of people. There's all sorts of options you can run. And you can have unlimited people like your page. I mentioned Grant Cardone. He just hit 1 million followers on his Facebook page. Followers and likes are really used interchangeably in that way. They mean pretty much the same thing. For Facebook, it's really, like I said, what I'm going to focus on, because for me, it's been my bread and butter, how I've kind of gotten a lot done. Now, personal profiles, you're friends with people as a personal profile. And I have 70 to 80% there, but it's actually a little bit higher. It's more like 80 to 90% of people that are friends with you can see things you post. But you can't run advertising. and you're limited to only 5,000 connections. So if you're trying to make an impact, the thing I want you to understand here, because I've worked with a number of different doctor's offices that think, oh my gosh, well, obviously I want to have a personal profile for my business. No, that doesn't make any sense. It's confusing. They're like, oh, well, 80 to 90% of people see what I'm posting. And I'm like, yes, I totally got that. But it's short-sighted. It's for you rather than for your company. It's short-sighted because you can only grow so big, and you don't want to put those type of restraints on yourself. So personal profile is important as a tool to build your business page because the advertising you can run is super, super, super powerful. So I don't really care that only 1 to 5% of people can see the post that I have scheduled to run on that page because the ads are going to make me way more money in the long run. So you want to think about your image. What are you putting out there? You'll see the picture on the right over there of Channing Tatum. He's an actor. And just some random guy in his underwear that I decided to put up there because I wanted to kind of want you to get this idea of who would you follow? Are you going to follow the guy holding the can of soda there, sitting in his recliner in his underwear? Or are you going to follow the guy who says success just by looking at him? I see that picture on the right and I see success. But a lot of people aren't considering this when they're putting together their social media. They're running things where maybe they were out at a party, drinking or doing a lot of these different things, and it displays a bad image. It puts a bad image out there. And it's something to consider even if you're somebody looking for a job, because a lot of companies will look at your social media profiles now and decide what kind of person you are and if they're ever going to have that interview with you. So these are just things you really want to consider. What am I putting out there? Am I putting my best foot forward? And the reason I say that is you need to have some professional photos. It's super, super, super important because it makes people look at you differently. You'll see the photo on the left where I say no, and the photo on the right where I say yes, which is actually of Damon John, another guy from Shark Tank, and he founded the brand FUBU. It's a clothing brand. It means for us, by us. And I say hire a professional photographer because it's super important. Get different scenes, be in a fashionable place. No yearbook photos because the one on the left is a yearbook photo. I look at that and it makes me laugh. We don't want to do that to people. We want to create a really great image that says, man, that guy is cool, or man, I can trust that guy, but not on a level that you don't feel reachable. So these are things you all need to think about. And as you experiment with it, you'll learn more of what works for you. There's not an exact formula for every single person, but there's a lot of concepts you can apply and see what works for you and what's believable for you. So your big goal in social media is not to sell something. Let me repeat, your big goal in social media is not to sell something. People have a very big misunderstanding on this. They think they post a link on Facebook, especially on their personal profile, say, here's my product, buy it. And then they get unfollowed and they wonder why. It's about educating. It's about helping people learn so that eventually they see what you're doing and become a better consumer, or maybe see something you post that goes to your website. This is why I say your website as a hub is so important. And then they join your email list. So these are things you really need to consider. So you always want to be educating and be a person of value, because if you're valuable, people then look at you like they trust you. You're creating this rapport with people. So these are things you really need to consider when doing that. And I'm just going to go over some basic content ideas because your content really has to be up to you, but then we're going to talk about how to get out there. So what to post? This is super important to consider, and it's been something for me that's developed over time. And the thing I'll share with you is, especially on social media, anything, especially on Facebook actually, anything with an image in it is going to trend a lot better. These social media platforms have a way of ranking what other people see based on, number one, if it has a photo in it, number two, how many people are interacting on it, and those are the two biggest things. There's a lot of other things that go into it, but if you focus on those two things, it's going to be a big thing for you. So I have here sharing friends photos. That was a photo from my wedding, and a friend shared it, and then I shared it, and then it creates more reach for him, and thus creates more reach for me. It's a kind of a back and forth. Quotes are really, really popular. You know, there's some awesome apps out there for quotes. Let me just look on my phone real quick and give you the name of the one that I use. Typorama is a iPhone or Android app, and it actually lets you put quotes on top of backgrounds. They look really professional, and I'll actually type that down here so that you guys, Typorama. It is a iPhone and Android app, and it actually lets you create really beautiful looking quotes that you can use on your social media profile so that you look more professional, but you don't have to go out and hire a graphic designer because that can get super expensive, and that's not really what we're looking to do here. Pets. Though Michael likes to give me a hard time about this one, people always love seeing images of my pets. And you want to think about how it's, how you're posting the photo, things like that. Travel is really cool. People like to see different places you're going. Life events. I have in there from my honeymoon. So there's a lot of different things. Angelina says, "Hi Jeremy, could you please tell me a bit more about quotes? What kind of people are worth quoting?" Okay, that's actually a really great point. Okay, so I'm interested in things entrepreneurial, right? So for me, I would want to quote people that are known in the entrepreneurial space. So like Bill Gates, Brian Tracy, Grant Cardone. So you want to look at your space and area of interest and think about people that other people would know. And maybe it's just a powerful quote, so it doesn't matter as much if they're known. Another great one is you want to think of people that are transcending, meaning they can go into many different spheres. So like, for example, Ralph Waldo Emerson is a really popular American author from like 150 years ago. He's pretty well known, so people of all different types of businesses and followings can quote somebody like that. Albert Einstein. These are the type of people you want to consider quoting because they're known. And that really helps people to say, oh, I like that, because now they're going to share it. And sharing is really, really good for anything you post because it's now going to introduce your post to a new audience. And this is something you always want to think with is how can my content get more views without me asking for it? Because one of the big things that people won't do, and this is funny, but if you ask people, post something and say, hey, share this, they probably won't. So you want to think about why it's going to be interesting to them and what's going to make them want to share this with other people. And I found quotes are super, super, super effective for that. Founder Magazine, which actually I'll type the name here. You'd have to Google it. I don't have the link off the top of my head, but they have a really great, and I realize it looks funny, but it is actually spelled like that. There's no E in it. They have a really great PDF you can get about the content you should make visually and for Instagram and things like that. So if you can find that, that's going to be one of the best places to do it. That's actually where I found out about Typorama, another one called Fonto. So these are ways you can really easily create content for yourself and make it something that you can easily do over and over and over again. If I want to create a quote in Typorama, just to give you an idea, I can do it in like under a minute. And it looks like I sent it out and had a designer do it for me. So these are things you want to think about when you're putting it together. So basically, you want your content to look good and professional, but also feel authentic. Like people look at that and they feel like they could be in that place. They feel like they can relate to you. You don't want to feel like you're absolutely unrelatable. So that's something to really consider when you're putting together your content. All right. So the story brand. What does this mean? Basically, you'll see this image here. I have a picture of Matisyahu. He's a singer, and he had a struggle in his life where he was addicted to drugs. And for him, Judaism was the thing that helped get him through his drug addiction. I see somebody here is posting, I searched for quotes on promorepublic.com, calendar of post ideas as well. Great. Yeah, there's definitely different resources where you don't have to like think of these your own, and there's different places you can do it. So if you search quotes, a lot of times you'll get some great, pre-made quote cards and ideas. But I really recommend that if you're gonna do that, still use an app like Typorama or Fonto or something like that, because on the bottom it should say either your website like www.yourname.com, or let's say what's called your handle. And I'll explain now what that means. On Twitter and on Instagram, you'll always see at your name. So for me, it's at the little A symbol, at Jeremy. I'm going to type that down here just so you guys see it. I don't want to make you confused. At Jeremy Ryan Slate. So you'll see that here. That's called your handle. That's how people find you on a lot of these social sites, mainly being Twitter and Instagram. And for me, that's been a super successful strategy. So if you're going to make these custom quote cards, put that handle or your website on the bottom, because now if people share it, more people are seeing it. Anyway, so let's get back to the story brand. You'll see this picture of Matisyahu going through his journey. And long blurbs of text like this that tell a journey pull people in. It talks about he lost his faith. He became addicted to drugs. And he actually, through his faith, found his way back to getting off of drugs, having a successful music career. And this is a shorter one than some things I've posted before. But these long text posts like this that tell a story tend to do very, very, very well, because people are super interested in having a story be told. And it says there 63 people like this. There was like 30-something comments. It's done a lot better than that than when I originally posted this. You'll see on August 9th there. But it's just to kind of give you an idea that this did really well. I've had some of these go over 100, over 200 likes, comments and things like that on it. So you want to tell a story to people, because people can buy into a story and they want to then take a story and share it with other people. But you'll notice here it's important that that story also has an image with it, because like I said, maybe people themselves like the text, but the way they're going to see it, because of the way the search ranking is set up for these social platforms, especially Facebook, images are really popular for them. So almost everything you share should have an image with it, or a social platform, specifically Facebook, is not going to rank it. So we're going to go through creating your action plan. I wanted to kind of give you guys an idea of, number one, who you are and what you represent. Number two, what type of content is and how you should use that content. And then just also some strategies that we just went through. So I want you to kind of have your tools, and now we're going to take those tools and make an application for them and be able to use them. So we are going to create an action plan for you. And this is done mainly through using concepts. So the first thing I want you to think about is something we talked about very briefly at the beginning there, but what is your purpose and what is your big idea, right? So I have on the bottom there, Scrabble believes the world would be better if we rediscovered the magic of words. So you want to think about what is the specific thing that you are trying to do, right? So to give you an idea, right, I was talking to a doctor that helps people with diabetes. And it's like, well, that's great. You help people with diabetes. That's what you solve, right? But that's not your big idea. I said, what is your big idea? What are you giving people back? And a lot of times it's their life. It's their vitality. It's a lot of these things. So you want to really think long and hard of what that big idea is, because big ideas are so much more important than just the words, because they can come up to this other level that eventually people can just see imagery and get what you're trying to explain. So figure out what is your big idea. If you're a doctor, your big idea is more than being just a doctor. If you're a lawyer, your big idea is more than just being a lawyer. If you're a CEO, your big idea is more than just being a CEO, right? Like Apple. Their big idea is not building iPads and giving people technology and creating iPhones and things like that, but it's actually creating technology that's different. So that, like, for example, I will buy anything that Apple makes because I have bought into their big purpose of we're different, we do things differently, and we walk a different way. So you want to really think of what your purpose is, and that's going to help you with creating your content. And this is not a short process. It's something you're going to have to spend some time on, but it's so much more rewarding when you move along thinking what your big purpose is. And for some people, it may be your tagline. Like for my podcast, Create Your Own Life, my big idea is how to create life on your own terms. And it's really a tagline, but that's a big idea, right? I'm helping people through interviewing other people, through the blog content I create, through a lot of these different things. Fred, big idea, company slogan or not? It can be. Like I was just explaining from my tagline it was, but it's not the same way for everybody. So you're going to have to definitely work with this a lot, and it can be a little bit more of a difficult concept, but once you nail it, it's going to be huge for what you're trying to put out there. So for me, create your own life created on your own terms, it is a tagline. So you want to think about that. You really want to think about what it is you're really giving people. You may be, as a doctor, giving people their life back, giving them control of their life. You want to think about what that big idea is and what makes you different. So we're going to talk about now finding people that are opinion leaders or in their space, also people that are going to be interested in what you have to post. So I'm going to give you guys a really big insider secret that seems super simple, but nobody ever seems to think of it. And you'll see there the list of 100. For me, when I started my podcast, the list of 100 was how I found people to initially interview, people to initially talk to. And the big insider secret here is Amazon Books. Most people don't even think of this. So I'm creating a podcast geared towards entrepreneurs and life strategies and stuff like that. So I go on Amazon and I type in the book section, entrepreneur. It's such a simple way of doing things. But now I have really cool people that have followings that I've never even heard of. So I still have to do some background checks on them and make sure I agree with the things they're talking about. But that's how you can get the idea of who other people are looking to in your space. And nobody's thinking of this, though it's a really easy action. Going on to Amazon and, typing in, maybe you're in wellness or you're in fitness or something like that. And typing these in will actually get you a lot of names of people that are now opinion leaders in their space. And for me, this process was then interviews. It may not be interviews for you, but basically you can learn from these people. And what I did is I emailed them. You could also try and add them on social media. Now, I'm going to recommend that you try and email a lot of these people first if you're finding them on Amazon, because they're probably not going to accept you adding them on Facebook or one of these places if they don't know who you are. So this is kind of a really, really great first step that a lot of people have never heard of. And the really basic step that a lot of people use but don't use well are Facebook groups and LinkedIn groups. So we talked before about diabetes, right? Maybe you search for people that have diabetes and you find all these Facebook groups of people that are, either they have it, have a family member that has it, have a friend that has it, and they're all in groups and they talk about stuff. And that's actually where your people gather. I'm in a Facebook group called the Entrepreneur Lifestyle Group run by a guy named Gallant Dill. And it is one of the biggest entrepreneurial groups on Facebook. And they talk about all sorts of cool stuff. And there's I think 60,000 people in it. That's a lot of people in one group. So if you find the places that the people you want to connect with are targeting, or are congregating, then it's a really big thing for you. LinkedIn groups are also big. There's one of the social media groups I'm in, I think it's called the Official Social Media Group or something like that on LinkedIn, has 1.2 million people in it. So these are places that people that you want to talk to are congregating. Now, that doesn't mean you go in these groups and do what I like to call link dropping, basically put a link to, here's my website, here's my services, blah, blah, blah. They'll kick you out of the group because these groups are meant to help each other, not just drop advertisement for our company. They want conversation. They want people talking. But this is a really good first step because now you can also connect with people that you may become friends with on these platforms. You can also use it as a survey, right? You can see what are people talking about? What are people interested in? What are their troubles? And if you don't already have a business or a product or something that's solving their problem, now you can start coming up with ideas of, maybe what you're going to do to solve it, or maybe how you can position what it is you're selling so that it can solve that problem. You know what I mean? And that's not to say that you're lying to people. It means that in the long run, maybe your product or service solves a problem they're having, but you want to be able to communicate to them in the way that they're saying they're having this problem. And being in these groups and basically looking at what people are saying and involving yourself in conversations is going to really help you learn what they're talking about. So now we just talked about those groups and we kind of went over this a little bit, but introduce yourself. So in a Facebook or LinkedIn group, one of my favorite things to do is say, my name is Jeremy. I have a podcast that interviews successful entrepreneurs. What does everyone else in this group do? And how can I be valuable to this group? And that's been super, super successful. I use it all the time. What I'll also do is you can, if you do a little searching, depending on what platform you're on, you can figure out who started the group. And then I usually send a message to that person. And I say, explain to them who I am and say, what's the most valuable thing that I can post in your group? Because once you become more valuable, you start building up, people's belief in you, people's trust in you, and it becomes easier to do everything else. And they'll also then tell you things and problems they're having that they wouldn't otherwise tell you because they didn't develop this trust with you. So that's something you really want to think of. And I'll really be honest with you. I told you guys about link dropping before. Basically just putting in links that aren't super relevant. Sometimes you can put blog posts in there, but you always want to check group rules because some groups will say, don't post your latest blog post. Okay, just follow the rules, guys. Just follow the rules. And I think that's one of the things that people don't always think about. So like I was talking about link dropping. A lot of times when you message a group admin or manager or owner first, they'll let you link drop once in a while if you just get their permission. Say, I'm thinking about posting XYZ post. I think it'd be really valuable to this group. Would it be okay with you? And that's a way you can get away with posting a lot of things that if you didn't ask first, they probably would have deleted it and kicked you out of their group. But it actually allows you to get more people seeing what you're doing. So this is basically getting yourself known in these groups, and that's now getting yourself known to people that are in your space that didn't already know about you. So as you can see, guys, it's like social media is not that hard if you just learn how to work it. All those other things that we talked about earlier need to be in place before you start doing some of these interacting strategies and doing a lot of different things that are going to get you more known. So now you're going to connect with your opinion leaders in your space. We just talked about some of these because a lot of times when you're new, you don't have your own content. So you may find, like I said, that group admin. Maybe you say to them, hey, I want to interview you. I want to have you on YouTube for an interview. I want to do a podcast interview with you. I want to do a blog post with you. This is a strategy a lot of people aren't talking about and that I've actually found through podcasting to be really valuable, because now they're going to let you post that content in their group because you're learning it from them and they want their group to see it. But also, it does something called positioning. When people see, let's say, Tony Horton, and you interviewed Tony Horton, now you're putting yourself in the same place in their mind as Tony Horton. And that's something really, really, really valuable to think about. And a lot of people on social media, it's just something they're not thinking about. Because, number one, when you interview somebody, they look at you in a different way because you have basically some sort of value to offer. You're helping them get their word out there by putting it on your website or putting it on YouTube or creating a podcast from them. So you want to think about how you can basically interview somebody to create content if you don't really have any content yet. So I hope this is something that's definitely helpful for you guys. And just because of my background, I really think every single person out there should have a podcast. I do. Because it's a valuable piece of content that can be used in many, 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 many places. You can take a podcast and make it into a YouTube video. You can do all these different things. So you want to basically think about how you can help create content that's going to draw interest back to what you're doing and make people understand you're doing big things, right? And we talked about groups earlier. Maybe you've already connected with the admin, but now look at the groups and observe. Observe who talks a lot, who comments a lot, who's the most valuable when they do post. And add those people as a friend or start a conversation with those people, because now you're building that network, you're creating that influence. And these are all things that are really, really going to help you get your brand out there more and get more people exposed to what you're doing and that big idea that you have. Maybe you don't have the big idea when you start out, but you're going to be developing it as you go along, right? Because I don't want you to think that I have to have a big idea to get started, because you won't get started. Have a good concept of it and keep working it out. Keep working it out. Keep working it out. And you'll eventually get closer to where you want to be with that. Creating unique content. So I gave you some content creation strategies earlier, but this is why I find groups to be super, super valuable, because we talked about before using it as a survey. So you're going to find out what issues are people that you want to service having, because now you can create content for their problem. So here's an example. There is a thing on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is a platform people don't log into a lot, so they have some weird rule called site-wide auto-moderation, right? Where if one group admin marks you as spam for 7 days, you're blocked in every single group that you're in from posting. That's a dangerous thing, right? That happened to me the first time, and I didn't know what the heck to do. So somebody wrote an article on a blog somewhere about site-wide auto-moderation. That now solved my problem, and I subscribed to their email list. So you want to think about basically from observing, from talking to people, from problems that you're having in that space. Remember, problems that can be solved, not complaining. People don't like complaining. But you want to think about how this content can help other people and help you become more valuable. And it's just things you're going to learn as you go along and as you come through. And maybe if you don't have a product or service in the beginning, or just maybe your product or service isn't positioned properly, as you go through this process, you can learn more of what people need and want. Also, you may want to start creating your own private Facebook group or LinkedIn group. This is something that takes a ton of work, and you may want to have some help to do that. So, there's definitely some help that could be given to helping you create your own Facebook group or LinkedIn group, just because it requires a lot more work. You have to add people, you have to interact, you have to create more content. So you have to think about there's more responsibility with these things, but they can pay off really well in the end. And one thing I want to recommend to you guys that a lot of people don't realize when they start their own LinkedIn or Facebook group: message people or text them or call them or whatever. Get their permission before you stick them in a group. There was this one group on one business group on Facebook, and I can't remember what the heck it was. But I woke up every morning and I'd be stuck in this group, because they can invite you to a group and you're there, and then you have to leave. So I would leave, they would put me back. I would leave, they would put me back. And then I finally realized there's this button that says prevent people from ever adding me to this group in the future. So I clicked that. Now, I had no idea what this group was or anything like that. If this person had asked my permission, I may have said yes had I known. But these are things that you want to think about could be an issue for you. So ask people's permission before you stick in a group of some sort. So expanding your network, social media is super, super valuable for expanding your network, because a lot of the things that we already went over, right? You can use groups to connect with people that are already in your space, that are already valuable, and you really want to think of basically how can I continue to use this platform to grow, right? I'm gonna go through in a couple seconds something that was super valuable for me that I used to activate other people and get them on what I wanted to do and help me have a really big article. So this is a really big tip you'll see in a second. So how to interact with other people and their real interests. So if I know Joe is interested in basketball and I see a great article about basketball on ESPN, I'm going to share it on his page or tag him in that post. And it may not be something that directly leads to business, right? Like I said, social media isn't about selling. It's about creating people seeing what you're posting. He may remember me now because I remembered him, right? You want to post for people's birthdays. It's super, super valuable to do. Posting for people's birthdays makes them remember you. You want to just be on people's minds, and social media is a tool for that, like nothing else that has ever existed before, when used properly. If you, like I said, if you're spamming people and doing a lot of those things that just don't look good, it can be deadly for you and your business. So it means you need to do it, but it also means you need to do it correctly. Also share other people's content. We talked about earlier how you want people to share your content. Well, sharing other people's content that you find valuable is going to make them in the future want to share yours, because it's a back and forth exchange, and you really want to think about that. Now, here's the great example of getting people involved or activating people. So I created this post about 2 weeks ago, and I said, I need your help. I'm putting together a list of the top 30 business people under 30 that are creating life on their own terms. And I tagged 5 people that I knew this would matter to, that were already going to be on my list. And then I said, please, in the comments below, tag people that you think belong on this list, right? So within 30 minutes, I didn't just have 30 people, I had 60. And it took me a lot of time to sort through which of these people were legitimate business people doing a great job and really did belong on this list. But it very quickly got people involved in posting, so much so that Facebook wouldn't let me make any more edits to this post. I created so much interaction, so much excitement that Facebook would not let me basically have any more people interact on this post. Crazy, right? But there were 45 comments, there were 26 likes, and this was just in the first hour. It sped up and it was over 100 likes and whatever. But it helped me create a piece of content, and it also got a lot of people involved, because then when I released this post on influensive.com, it did 10,000 views in its first 11 hours. It didn't get 12 hours and it hit 10,000 views. So that's really, really cool, because all these people were excited, and every one of the people on this list wanted to then share it, right? But also their following also wanted to share it. So this is a really easy way to activate people and get them interested in your mission and what you're doing. So activating your fans, maybe you see people that like your stuff a lot, and they are, now what we like to call a fan. Maybe they're not like on a fan page, but there's somebody that interacts with you a lot. These are people that are now going to share your content because they like what you post. So I'm having guest hosts on my podcast that help me expand my audience to their audience. So you want to think about these different things. I mentioned here my friend Drew, right? He likes a lot of things that I post, and I know now I'm going to reach his friends. So you're going to develop a fan, right? Develop people that interact with your stuff a lot, and those are the people that now, when you try to launch the business end of things bigger, you hopefully been doing the business thing in the background, it's going to be a lot easier for you to then do that and have real fans. So you want to continually refine what you're posting, use interaction as a survey. If people aren't interacting a lot, get rid of the post. Likes or comments, if they're liking, if they're commenting a lot, it's a pretty good thing. More likes, that's your winner, right? Let's say I have a post that has 10 likes and I have a post that has 100. Well, I'm going to post more things like the post that has 100. And I think people don't think of that a lot of times, on Facebook especially. When I have a post that doesn't do well, I delete it, because I want people to see all the posts that are doing really well, and based on the survey of the interaction, it didn't do well, right? So these are things you want to think about. So now that you know what's working, develop a plan, get some sort of software that helps you schedule. Doesn't mean you don't have to interact, you still got to do that, but those are things that you want to think about now. So you have what's working, continue to fire ahead on that. And that's a lot of what's working for your personal profile, but like I said, it helps you to build your business profile. And now we need to get that business profile working for you. And remember, your social media, like I said, it's an environment, and you want all those touch points to be really, really good and really cohesive and make sense to people. So your personal profile is your lead-in to get people in your business profile. And it's a really valuable thing. So the rules are quite similar. Personal profile, you have friends. Business profile, you have fans. Maybe you have your best friends, or the people, like I said, the people that become your personal profile fans. They become your brand advocates, right? So these things really match up really well, right? So you want to think about how a lot of these things can help you create a bigger image. And initially, it's going to be something small, but it can get huge, and it can create a movement. And that's really what social media is about. It's creating a movement, making something big. So there's a difference. If you guys want to know more, you should register for a free strategy session with Miratech. And these guys are doing some amazing things. They work with some huge brands globally, and I really appreciate them having me on here today so that I can deliver this to you and help you get moving forward with building your brand. So I'm going to hand it back to Michael. Thank you for having me.
Hello? Yeah, I'm back. So thank you very much, Jeremy. That was awesome. I had so many good ideas for my businesses. So to wrap it up, basically here is a special bonus, right? For those who stayed behind and till the very end. It was actually, it was excellent. So the bonus is a totally free session with Miritech guys on social media production, on digital production, and they even offer something else as part of that. So let's say, like this slide you're now looking at. Let's say you have an idea, right? Point number one, how to promote your brand. Let's say you have some genius, brilliant idea. They can actually suggest on how to implement it better, right? They have lots of experience for big brands that they can really apply to small brands or brand promotion. They'll help to validate it or show you its weak points. Because you see, if you think of a good idea by yourself, it does not mean it will actually hit it back or big. It could have weak points. Also, these guys will give you, as part of your free consultation, they will look at all your social media presence, your websites and Facebook page and LinkedIn. So they will also give you a finished prototype of your promotion. In other words, they have tools to really have you play with your brand, let's say, pictures or brand promotion. You can actually play with this on the screen and try it out. So it will be a finished prototype. And also in that process, while having this free consultations, you will, for your particular brand, you will learn the main mistakes in any digital promotion. And you see, digital promotion sounds very fancy, but it's basically, any doctor office and any auto mechanic office. If they have Facebook page for business, they doing digital promotion. And there could be so many things done technically now in our day, this modern day, with really attract lots of customers. And unfortunately, doctors and other professionals just don't utilize that. But okay, so we're coming to the end of our webinar. Thank you very much for attending. It was very, very good. And now, Vova, you can post the link here. Yeah, here the link is in the chat. That's where you just log in and request this free consultation. And it's no obligations, obviously. All right, thank you very much. I'm gonna, we'll close the presentation and we'll see you soon. We'll have more different content. We're gonna do different subjects. All right, so see you next time.